think I am live. Hi everybody. Happy Sagittarius full moon. I'm really excited to dive into this one. The stars, the everything, it kind of took me in some very unexpected places that kind of tie together a lot of the topics and like archetypal concepts that we have discussed here over on Patreon particularly time and time again, and so I kind of love it. I'm excited to dive in, just waiting for it to go live. Okay, sound is good. Let me just throw this over here. I'll hop in. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. So before we dive into the slides for this chart, I do want to just point out the slides from the new moon video. So this is a full moon. I'm sure you guys are aware that full moons are culmination points. So they are the peak of some story that was started 6 months previously at the partner new moon to this full moon. So back during Sagittarius season, in the winter time, we had a Sagittarius new moon, and that started something, whatever area of your chart Sagittarius governs, that has been building over the past 6 months, that is coming to a peak right now. Something there is being illuminated, something there is culminating, something there is ready for harvest, and something there is also ready for transmutation and release. Much like the sun, after this full moon period, will start to lose its light and wane on its way back to a new moon over the next 6 months, right? So I always like to look back at the new moon that seeded this to see, like, what were we talking about? And I always like to recommend that you guys go back and watch these videos, right? The full moon, it's the end of the story. Like, there's not too much to do at the time of a full moon except for like reap your rewards, cultivate your harvest, right? Pay attention to that illumination and then prepare for some sort of shift and release, right? A lot of the energy of this moon was sparked 6 months ago. So the moon fell in the constellation of Ophiuchus, as does tonight's moon. We're going to talk about that extensively. It fell actually conjunct the main star of Ophiuchus, which I call the third eye. It's like in his forehead, right? So it is this ascended consciousness of the serpent tamer, right? Which is a archetype we have talked about extensively over here. I'm realizing right now that I forgot to link the videos I wanted to link, but you guys definitely have access here, even on YouTube. I unlocked this video for free for everybody on YouTube. You guys have access to my deep dive on the constellation of Ophiuchus, as well as the Access Monday video, where we discuss this constellation pretty in depth. But coming back and watching this video will give you a little bit of an idea of like the energy that seeded this moment in time that is now culminating, right? We'll come back to this. I want to come back to this. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. Woo, where have you been? I know I haven't really been releasing a lot of videos over here on YouTube. That is going to change soon. I am unleashing a couple of new things out there into the world. One of them is my Substack. So before we get into this, let's just go ahead and do that. So I just launched my Substack. Some of you, especially those of you who found me over on Instagram, some of you might remember that my content used to primarily be like long form written content. Like I would write the longest Instagram posts and they would be like posted in the comments, like multiple continued down below type of things, right? And that's really how I like to channel astrology, you know. I love writing. It's why I always have so much notes going into this, because that's how my brain seems to work best, is like sitting here staring at the chart, pondering, contemplating things. I have 2 cats over here sleeping very good. I have the dog over here chewing on his foot, but being very good. But now I have another cat at the door. I just have to move all these cords. There's so many cords. Hold on. You get one. Now I'm just going to send the dog out with you because I know you're not going to be good. I love you. Go play with the dog. Love you. Okay. Okay, so I used to really focus on long form written content, but the Instagram algorithm just did not ever show it to anybody. I swear if you do not have like a small caption, it immediately gets suppressed. They're like, oh no, you're trying to share too much information. So my Instagram slowly morphed to like memes, which I also love making the memes, right? Memes, and then Patreon, my long form video content, which I also love. I am long-winded. I like to sit here and talk for hours and get my thoughts out. I love that. But I tend to be more eloquent in my writing than I am in my speaking. And so I'm very excited to launch my Substack. Some of you may not be familiar with what exactly Substack is. I wasn't until recently, when it was suggested to me that I do this, that it would be right up my alley. So Substack is pretty much a like Patreon type scenario, where you have like, you know, a really low monthly pledge or even a free option, where you join like a newsletter type scenario, particularly geared around writing, right? And there's different tier options, and there are it's even like an option for like podcasting and things that I might be expanding into in the future. But what I'm really excited to get back to is like the long form writing. I know you guys might not always be able to like sit here and watch me talk about each and every moon for like 3 hours on end, and we all know we're gonna be here forever tonight. You might prefer to sit down and read a publication, an article that I wrote, like kind of summarizing that, because these are going to be tied mostly to the lunation. So I'm hoping to do like 2 a month, where like I talk about the moon at hand and then whatever the surrounding energy is, right? And then with a focus on all of the things that I can't necessarily talk about in depth, especially on Instagram, and I guess probably even on YouTube, because my YouTube really does not grow at all, and I assume it's because of the words I'm using. And in this Substack, I wanted to kind of touch on some of those, you know, more conspiracy-minded subtopics, right? So it's going to be a focus on, of course, this galactic esoteric astrology that I know and love, right? A focus on the asteroids and the fixed stars and the black holes and the like esoteric archetypal dynamics of the sky. Like that's of course what we're going to be talking about. And then conspiracies and mysteries and how that all layers in with astrology. It's ideally going to be like a summarized version of kind of like what we do over here on Patreon, but where I can maybe get my thoughts out a little bit more clearly and kind of map out and the details in a more like in-depth analysis, right? Okay, so why do you want to subscribe? So you have access to this exclusive content, right? Thank you everybody who supports me over here on Patreon. I am still going to be doing all my Patreon videos for another small subscription. As low as like $5 a month, you can get access to everything. If you would prefer to join one of the higher tiers, you would also have access to everything. And then you would have a yearly session with me right around the time of your birthday, where we dive into your solar return and your year ahead through, you know, the lens of Galactic Esoteric Astrology, right? So this is all linked down below. You can go check out the Substack. If you are a member of my Patreon, my course, or if you've ordered anything through my website, you should have received like an invite link to Substack already. I uploaded my email lists over there. If this is like if you're not interested in this at all, it's very easy to unsubscribe. You can just go ahead and hit the unsubscribe button and you won't get any more emails from me. If you want to do this, but you don't want like the emails coming to your inbox, you can go into your Substack like profile and change the settings. So you can go over there when you want to see it instead of it coming to you. Otherwise, it will come directly to you. You don't even need to download the app. It will come right to your inbox. If you are a subscriber, again, if you want to join for free, you will get access to all of the stuff I unlock later at like a later date. It will probably be like well into a transit or like past the lunation, but you'll get to read it just a little bit later, right? So my first Substack will be launching on the full moon, which is in my natal moon sign. I am a Sagittarius moon. And the sun will be conjunct my midheaven, and the moon will be conjunct my IC. And a lot of transits in my chart really speak to like expanding my horizon when it comes to like sharing my message. Oh my god, the cats look so cute. I wish I could show them to you. And so it's a really auspicious time for me to kind of venture out a little bit more. And what I'm really venturing back out to is my roots, right? It's conjunct my IC, this moon. That is the root of your chart. And this was where I started. This is what I wanted to do, but the internet wouldn't let me. And so I'm very excited for this venture. This first publication is going to launch on the moon, and we're going to be covering a lot of the stuff we're going to be covering here in this video, but a little bit more detailed, a little bit more like analyzed, and then a focus kind of on the ongoing solar storms and my view on that, which I see in the collective, the like views seem to be quite polarized, and I'm here to kind of offer a balanced perspective where like we can hold multiple truths at once and still find the actual truth in the middle, right? So we're going to be talking about Jupiter and Gemini, which is something we're going to cover here tonight. We're going to be talking about the solar storms and like the dualistic lenses with which we can view these storms, right? Are we in a solar maximum? Is our consciousness like firing at all cylinders? Yes, it is. And or is this just HARP, right? Is this just the eighth sphere? Is this just electromagnetic weapons targeting our consciousness? I do not think that is it, although I do think that exists and may be playing a part in some of these aurora events. But we're going to touch on how this is a very big time for our consciousness. Jupiter and Gemini coincides with this, and we're going to be kind of exploring this. You know, some things that I can't talk about this over on Instagram. I could, but I'd have to try to write in code, and then they're not going to show it to anybody. Not that they show anybody my work anyway. But, you know, multiple perspectives are manifesting within the polarized collective mind of man, including a middle path, which historically tends to be closest to the truth. And so we're going to talk about these, like, polarized perspectives, the truth that stand on both sides, and then the, like, semblance of sanity in the middle, which is a big lesson of Jupiter and Gemini, and something we're all going to be working through independently and collectively over the next year as Jupiter transits this sign. So we're going to talk about this here. We're going to also talk about this here tonight. I am done with my spiel. If you'd like to join my Substack, it is linked down below. Okay, grab your chart. Hi, Sophia. She says, I am so happy you're venturing out. I am too. Okay, grab your chart. So we're going to look and see where a couple of things are in our chart, and then we are going to talk about the fixed star alignments, and then we'll get into the chart. Lay down, mama. Don't worry about it. Lay down. No. Don't go for the plastic. Hold on. All right, you're going to have to go out there with everybody else then. Come on. Want to say hi first? You can say hi first. Say hi. Okay, let's go. She is my most snuggliest, attached to me cat, but she does not let me pick her up and carry her. She really, really, really hates that. But she'll snuggle me in the bed like all day and sleep on my face. Okay, grab your chart. We're going to look and see where a few things are. We're going to look and see where an axis falls in our chart. If you are not new here, you've probably already done this. But you want to look and see first where Sagittarius falls in your chart. This is the symbol for the sign of Sagittarius. If you are a Patreon member, they're linked on the Patreon post is a whole list of different places you can get your chart. You want to look and see what house does Sagittarius govern in your chart. And then you want to look opposite that to see Gemini. And you want to look and see what house does Gemini govern in your chart, because this is a full moon. So we have two sides of the coin activated right now. We have opposing houses. We have the sun in Gemini and the moon over in Sagittarius. And so there is an axis activated, as there always is. We'll get into that as we get into the chart. But this axis is particularly illuminated at the time of a full moon, right? It feels like we're being pulled in two different directions, and we are, right? There is a tension, there is a need for resolve, right? And there is an illumination that shows us something we need to see. And then there is a new beginning on the horizon, right? We're at a Sag full moon, which will be followed by a Gemini new moon, which is going to be really, really, really big because of all of the planets moving in to Gemini, right? The house of Gemini is about to be expanded in really, really, really big ways, right? And so these two areas of our chart, whatever houses these are really feeling this right now. They're feeling this illumination, they're feeling this culmination, they're feeling this period of harvest, right? And then they're also feeling this urge for something new. And we're really, while this is a Sagittarius full moon, we're going to be talking a lot about the house of Gemini because we are being urged in many, many ways to develop this area right now. This is what we need to develop, right? It is the light of the Gemini sun that is being reflected back at us by this Sagittarius moon, right? It is trying to show us something about this other side. So look and see what houses do these fall in. For me, I have Sag in the 4th house. It's my natal moon sign. I have a lot of things there, Saturn, Uranus. And Gemini governs my 10th house of career, of ambition, of success, of mission, of being seen out in the world for my mind and my information and my ideas, which I have Chiron there. So it is hard for me, and there's a lot of woundings around that I have to work through, and I also get to put said wounds on display for the world as I work through them. It's lots of fun, but This is the axis that is highlighted in my chart. If you guys know where yours is, you can write it in the chat. You want to look and see, do you have any planets there in either one of those signs, particularly near 2 degrees, all right? The moon falls right at the beginning of these signs. Gemini season started like literally just days ago. We're right at the start of this story. So you want to look and see, do you have any planets near the beginning of any of the mutable signs, right? So this is Sagittarius. If it's there, it's conjunct the moon, opposite the sun. If you have any planets near the beginning degrees of Gemini, it is conjunct the sun and opposite the moon. And if you have any planets near the beginning degrees of either Pisces or Virgo, those planets are sitting in a square to this lunation. So you want to look and see what houses those fall into if you have planets near 2 degrees, because those houses are going to be very much a focus when it comes to this illumination, culmination, and the story we're about to start over here in Gemini, right? All right. I definitely forgot to link these videos. I need to write myself a note. Am I going to see this note? No, I'm never going to see it. I need to put this note somewhere I'm going to see. I'm going to write this note, but if I forget, oh, I already have it written here. The last note I wrote to put these videos linked down below, and that then got put into here and didn't get seen. All right. Okay, hopefully I will link these right after. All right. Some of them are Patreon only videos, but most of them are available here. You can go find them on your own. The May breakdown from my 2024 webinar, we talk a lot about Jupiter and Gemini there. It's free for everybody on YouTube. The Ophiuchus Rabbit Hole, free for everybody on YouTube. The Axis Mundi Dive, free to everybody on YouTube. These two are Patreon videos. I will link them down below. I'm going to reference them later in this lecture, right? All right, so the moon itself falls at 2 degrees of tropical Sagittarius, all right? I'm not really going to get into the difference between the tropical and sidereal system in this video, although I do already have a essay written on the subject that I have not finished, but that will be a future Substack publication. So if you want to hear my opinion on all of that, again, join my Substack. It's linked down below. I actually remembered to link that. This moon falls at 2 degrees of tropical Sagittarius. So it sits in the part of the wheel of the year that seasonally is associated with Sagittarian energy, right? This energy of expansion, of growth, of the higher mind, religion, philosophy, publications, things like that. We'll talk more about Sag energy when we get to the chart. Now, because of precession, something we discussed in many of those videos that I linked here or will link later, and something that will be discussed extensively over on Substack. Because of precession, the stars and the wobble of the Earth's axis, the stars seem to move 1 degree every 72 years, and they spin all the way around the zodiac in what's known as the precessional year, the great year, the 26,000 year cycle, right? And so the stars slowly move. Now, when we named these constellations and we dictated what these seasons manifested within our reality, these were very strongly rooted to the seasons, right? And so this is why we still very much feel this Sagittarius energy, even though the stars are still within the constellation of Scorpio, right? So this moon falls at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, but it actually falls aligned with the constellation of Scorpio and the constellation of Ophiuchus, which spans pretty much all of Sagittarius. Yeah, it starts at 2 degrees of Sag, and it goes all the way to the end of Sagittarius. with his foot here conjunct the galactic center. Okay, this is a really important area of the sky that we have talked about extensively. All right, so this moon falls here on the ecliptic, and it is aligned with two fixed stars. All right, one in the left hand of Ophiuchus, the serpent tamer or the serpent bearer, and one in the right claw or the forehead or the crown of the scorpion, depending on who's telling the story. Sometimes it's the star associated with the right claw, but if you look at the etymology of the name, it is associated with the forehead. So it probably is more so associated with the forehead of the scorpion. We're going to talk about this here in a second. So this moon falls here, the sun is opposite it. All right. Ophiuchus is sometimes referred to as the 13th sign. Okay. I go into it pretty extensively in those videos that I linked as to why he should not be called the 13th sign. While yes, he does cross the ecliptic, his feet cross the ecliptic where the planets transit in front of. He actually crosses more of the ecliptic than Scorpio. Yes, he crosses the ecliptic, but in my opinion, he sits beyond it. All right. And I go into this very extensively in this video. I hate summarizing things. I want to tell you all the things, so I'm trying my best so we're not here all night. 13 is a prime number. All right. It is a divine number that can only be divided by itself and 1. Unlike 12, which can be divided by a whole bunch of fucking things, that is how we get the zodiac. It is, the circle, the 1 divided by 12. We have the elements. We divide by 4 elements. We divide by the polarities. We divide by the modalities. Astrology is all about the division of 12. It is where we get the trines and the squares and the sextiles and all of those things. It only works with 12, right? 13 is a prime number. It can't be divided by any of those things. It can only be divided by 1. And that is what this constellation tries to get us to do, which is, I call it the esoteric 13. Because and we talk about this a lot in my course as well. It sits outside of the 12, and it's ideally doing what the whole sky is trying to get us to do, which is to integrate our polarities. Okay? Ophiuchus is the son of Apollo in the Greek pantheon. He is the physician, he is the healer of the Greek pantheon. And he is responsible for breaking the generational curse of his father, ultimately, symbolically, archetypally. Because while he is the serpent tamer, the serpent bearer, he is set to tame the serpent energy and then become a healer in the process. He is doing this because his father, Apollo, was responsible for severing our connection to the serpent. All right. As the story goes, when Apollo was a baby, Apollo, the sun god, when he was literally a newborn baby, he slayed Gaia, the earth goddess, her python. He killed it. This python used to live in the belly of the earth, and it has a lot to do with the earth goddess religion, right? A connection to the divine feminine, much like the 13. A connection to the divine feminine, a connection to nature, right? Like a snake that crawls on the ground. It's connected to the earth, right? It lived in the belly of the earth. And he slayed it. And then he stole Gaia's temple. So Gaia, the earth goddess, she used to have this temple where all of her priestesses, the Pythian priestesses, would channel themselves from connection to the goddess. They didn't need to be intoxicated in any way. After Apollo stole this temple, he also stole her priestesses, and he turned it into his temple, and he called it the Oracle of Delphi, where these priestesses would sit over this like cavern where the steam would come out of that now vacant, that belly of the earth, and these priestesses would go into this trance, and instead of channeling wisdom from the divine naturally, they would channel Apollo, the sun god, through this steam, right? And this went on for a very long time. This represents the like end of the earth goddess religion and this like rise of the solar cults. I think it's interesting that in Christian astrology, which yes, does exist, both of these pictures here are from this very interesting book that I love and I reference all of the time called The Witness in the Stars, which is a look through all of the constellations, not just the zodiac, the fixed star associations, the symbolism behind the constellations, and how it connects to biblical passages and biblical figures. And according to Christian astrology, this is Jesus, right? Working to kind of tame that beast. So in the Greek story, Ophiuchus is responsible for having to reintegrate the wisdom that was severed by his father. Now, this had a purpose, right? When we are connected to the mother and the earth, we do not have some solely, when we're connected to that solely and have not developed our solar consciousness, we have no like individuality, right? We are very much a member of the group, of the tribe, of the mother, right? So we had to, as a collective, sever this connection for a time being in order to develop the other side of the story. This is what Gemini tells us, right? The twins. Apollo is one set of twins. He is the solar deity, and his sister Artemis, the moon goddess, is the lunar. Together they are whole, right? And so we needed to go develop this other part of ourselves. And so humanity, really severed a lot of that connection to the mother in order to develop the conscious self, right? The light, the father and the son, right? Which starts to connect us back to the mother, right? And so we're going full circle. And that is what Ophiuchus does. He goes full circle. He is responsible for reintegrating what his father severed. He tames the serpent, and he becomes the first physician and healer of the Greek the Greek history or mythology of just Greek stories in general, right? Through his integration of the serpent. He's also said to use the head of Medusa after Perseus severs her head and saves Andromeda. This head is then given to Ophiuchus, and he uses her healing blood. The blood on half her body is healing, the blood on the other half is poison. And he uses the blood on one half of her to help heal tons of people. And he becomes such a good healer that he is placed in the sky by the gods because they are afraid that he is going to make humanity immortal, right? We're going to be talking about this concept of immortality a lot here tonight and why it doesn't mean what they think it means, right? So Ophiuchus is all about the ascension beyond the split, the war, the divide, right? Ophiuchus sits exactly opposite Gemini. Gemini represents the twins, the split, the war, the divide. And Sagittarius and Ophiuchus represent where the two become one again, all right? We see this in the centaur of Sagittarius, the tropical sign in which this is in, the man and horse becoming one. We also see it here with the man and the serpent, the unconscious, right? Becoming one. And there's a lot of different constellations here that kind of tell a story, all right? We have Ophiuchus, the man, struggling with in order to like ultimately tame and utilize the serpent in his hands. He is standing on the constellation of Scorpio, which very much represents that underworld, right? That unconscious. And he's standing on top of it, right? He has dominion over both of these forces that represent the unconscious parts of ourself, right? He's standing on top of one and he has control over the other, right? Here, where his foot and the stinger of the scorpion meet is the galactic center. And here in the middle is the great attractor, all right? So what he is working to activate within us is galactic consciousness. It is a higher consciousness that sits beyond the polarized, dualistic split of yin and yang, light and dark, us and them, right and wrong, good and evil, always an opposition, always an adversary, right? And he works to balance these within himself and activate some sort of higher mind, higher consciousness, right? Which is very much represented by this crown constellation here called the Corona Borealis, all right? So if he can tame the serpent, which is licking the crown, the serpent wants the fucking crown, and if the serpent gets the crown, we're all doomed, right? But if he can tame the serpent, and man and serpent can work as one, then he can reach the crown, and they can be crowned sovereign, galactic, right? The Corona Borealis is that crown. It's actually the crown of Ariadne, which is the Lady of the Labyrinth. So it has a lot, and she is the one in the myth who helps us find our way out of the labyrinth, which represents the unconscious, right? That the maze within us all. It is Ariadne, it is her string, or in this case, her crown, that helps us to find our way out, right? So this constellation is very cool. Not only are we, of course, being attacked in our corona right now through everything that's happened since 2020, right? But our corona, our consciousness, right? This essence of light, this halo around us, around our earth, is being magnified right now by the solar storms. And then later this year, we are going to experience, for like the first time in our lifetime, a supernova. Well, it's not actually a supernova because this star doesn't all the way explode. It mimics a supernova where this really big like explosion of energy that's on a repeated cycle. Like, this isn't the first time it's happened. We can calculate it because it's happened. I don't know the years. I don't know how many years. I'll know when it's closer to the event. I'll do my research. But a supernova type event will be happening in this crown later this year, where it'll look like a new star, really bright star, even be able to be seen with the naked eye, appears in this constellation that we can't normally see, and then it'll be there for a little bit of time, and then it'll disappear, and we won't see it again for like another however many years. So this area of the sky is very much being activated, and it is the area of the sky we want to activate. Like I said, this is where the galactic center is. The center of our galaxy, the black hole at the center of our galaxy. This is where the great attractor is. The gravitational anomaly that we do not understand, that is pulling 100 billion galaxies all towards its center. Like, this is where everything is merging with the one. And this is what this constellation tries to get us to do. Okay, I'm going to try to go into my notes. You guys, I love this area of the sky. Before I even knew like the houses and like the aspects and like how astrology actually worked, there were a few things I was obsessed with that got me into this. It was precession and the great year, like the ages. It was fixed stars, like Sirius and certain things like that. I was very, very, very obsessed with. And then it was this constellation of Ophiuchus. I have my sun and Uranus conjunct that star in his third eye, so you know, I don't think I really have a choice, but I've been very obsessed with this constellation for a long time, and I have talked about it extensively. So if you want to know more, if you're like, wow, Allie, this is very interesting, tell me more. There's a bunch of videos. They will be linked down below, or you can go and find them over on Patreon by typing, like, maybe the word Ophiuchus if I put it in the title. Maybe not. Or just scrolling until you see, like, this dude on a thumbnail. I try to put all the information in the thumbnail so we can find it later. Okay, let's talk about these stars. All right, we already talked about how this area of the sky is very, very, very important when it comes to, like, activating our axis mundi, right? Patreon members, you know what that is. You know, it is that center within us all, which is very much represented in the sky by the galactic center and the pole star, which sits exactly opposite this over in Gemini, okay? This is that essence of the center within us, within this dualistic realm that we very much live within and have to experience. It is that essence of center that never allows us to lose our direction, right? Okay, so let's talk about these stars a little bit. Okay, so this star right here in the left hand is called Yed Prior. Again, I'm going to mispronounce everything. I'm so sorry to all of these cultures. I do it to all of them, so it's just, I'm sorry. Okay, so the star in the hand is in the left hand of Ophiuchus, the left hand of the cosmic man, right? When I was putting this star here, and had just got this picture of, like, him as Jesus, right? I was really thinking of this as, like, one of the nails in his hand, right? He is battling the serpent here at this degree, right? Not only are we in the midst of the Scorpio constellation, which has a lot to do with the unconscious, right? This is the hand that is gripping the head. This is the hand that very much needs to be in control, right? And it's the left hand path of, you know, esotericism, of development of consciousness. We need both the left and the right hand in order to find the middle, right? The left hand has a lot to do with, like, will-based magic, right? Things that are rooted in, like, the manipulation of energy and the exertion of your will upon the situation. Manifestation would fall under that, right? Anything where you're trying to exert your will upon the situation. This is needed to develop the individual, right? But a lot of times this is rooted in ego and in like unconscious forces, right? And then there's the right hand, which has a lot to do with, like, the divine will, and the goal is to get both these hands working together on the same thing, right? Astrology is really great with this because it helps you to see the, like, divine blueprint and what's going on in the sky, what's going on in your chart, and it helps you to kind of find alignment with the divine, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting that this star here is associated with success in astrology and in ninth house matters. So the ninth house is the house of the development of the higher self, but it also has a lot to do with, like, dogma and religion and, like, fields of higher learning, philosophy, and things like that, right? These two hands ideally are working together in order to activate his third eye, which the new moon that seeded this full moon was conjunct, right? So we are culminating this higher mind energy, right? Okay, so this is the start of the constellation of Ophiuchus. This is the start of the realm of the higher man, the higher mind, right? That which sits beyond the serpent, that which helps us to ascend, right? It is said to be a fortunate star, depending on who you're talking to. Ancient fixed star astrology is really kind of all over the place. That's why I really did dig into, like, the archetypal expressions for myself. I'm like, let's put the pictures up there, let's see what's going on, and let's try to decode this for ourselves. You'll see as I get into some of these associations, right? All right, so it's a fortunate star. The word Yed prior, Y-E-D prior, comes from the Arabic word meaning Yad, Y-A-D, which literally means hand, all right? Astrologers or people who are familiar with astrology might be thinking of the word Yod, Y-O-D, which is an aspect pattern in astrology that is associated with the hand of God or the finger of God. I'd be willing to bet they have a similar like etymological origin, right? So prior, Yed means hand, and prior is a Latin for in front of, all right? So this is the hand that is in front of the main stars of Ophiuchus, Yed posterior, and the rest of the constellation of Ophiuchus, this higher mind, this higher self, this physician, this healer, right? He became so good at healing that he was making everybody live forever, and the gods were like, what the heck, like, we can't have this, you have to go up there, right? So this constellation houses the galactic center, the great attractor. When you activate this galactic consciousness, when you move beyond the duality of light versus dark, hell and heaven, and all of these things, and you activate galactic or cosmic consciousness, this ascended awareness, you become, quote, immortal. Because you realize that divine spark within you. You realize that you are part of this grand unfolding, and that this whole grand unfolding is an expression of God, right? Or source, or whatever word you want to use for it, right? And so you realize that you never die. This spark will never die, right? This is really the quest that Sagittarius is on, and that Ophiuchus helps us to activate, is these like spaces of higher awareness, all right? Okay, so the words hand and in front, and it's in front of a whole bunch of really important shit in the sky, okay? Including the great attractor and the galactic center. The star comes first. Does it have a hold of the serpent or vice versa, right? So this is a test that we very much go through at this point of the sky, right? When any planet transits here, this is the point of struggle, right? This is the hand that determines whether or not he has this thing tamed, or if this thing has the upper hand, right? This is the point of the struggle. So do you have a hold of the serpent? The moon has just transited through, oh, my dog is barking crazy. Or vice versa, right? While the star does have a lot of like positive connotations to it in some cultures, like around the Euphrates, both Yed posterior and Yed prior are said to be associated with their like man of death and have a sort of evil influence to it. I mean, the serpent and the scorpion, like, yeah, I can see how this could be associated with that essence of death and us need to have the kind of upper hand, right? And so this would be a time to kind of check yourself, like, are you in control or is your shadow, right? So here's some of that like ancient fixed star associations. It's more like medieval fixed star associations, but this star is said to cause immorality, shamelessness, and a revolution. Okay? The ancients associated this constellation with those who used the healing power of herbs, which at some point was very revolutionary and would have you looked at as immoral, right? It has a double-edged sword, right? Everything does. I mean, look at right here. It's literally the hand of the man and the body of the serpent. And if we do not have control, but I don't want to say like control over, it's more of an integration of, an understanding of, a utilization of, a transmutation of, right? It's not a dominion over. I think it is more of like a dominion over the scorpionic unconscious, right? And then an integration of the wisdom that it holds with the serpent, okay? So let's talk about this star here in the Scorpion. I will come into this chat once I get through the fixed stars, because I'm like, I don't even know what time it is, but I feel like I've spent like too much time on this, but I just did all this research, and so I'm going to tell it to you. All right, so I have no idea how to pronounce this. I am not going to try. It is spelled Dschubba. If you can figure out how to say that, go for it. It is the right hand or claw, or sometimes known as the forehead or the crown of the Scorpion. It is the lower crown, right? We have this upper crown up here, which we're ideally trying to activate, right? If we can get right with this aspect of ourselves, we can get there. But then there's also this like lower crown, which is trying to like pull us down towards it, right? Now, the name of the star comes from the Arabic word that means the forehead, okay? Or some say that it comes from the Arabic phrase that means the crown of the Scorpion. There's also a second name for this star that is like Isis, and it's said to be associated with Isis in Egypt, but there's not really much else I can find about that, so grain of salt with all of that. Okay, so this star is also associated with immorality and shamelessness, as well as sudden assaults. But if we look at it from a different perspective and even different culture, it has a much more ascended astrological, like archetypal expression, all right? So according to later Mesopotamian cultures, this star is, again, I don't know how to say this. I'm going to spell it. You can write it down if you want. This star was called JIA space JAN space JU space SUR, which seems to have meant the forbidden tree of life of Eden. Or some say it's the tree of the garden of light or life, okay? More on that in a second. The star is associated with power and victory over one's enemies, right? Victory ideally over one's perceived enemies, but really they're just aspects of you, okay? But in reality, it can also be associated with like victory over like literal enemies in your reality, because we all have those, right? It's associated with hidden secrets. And according to tradition, these stars give the ability to research, especially into things of secret or hidden nature. This star here in the depths under the ecliptic is asking us to put the depths to good use, okay? Or fall victim to the like magnetic darkness, the all-consuming darkness of this like crown of the underworld, right? Are we going to use what we find here to good use, or will it consume us, right? Are we going to tame this serpent, or is it going to turn its head and devour us, right? It's wrapped around him just as much as he's wrapped around it, right? It could be anybody at this point. So this is the forehead of the Scorpion. It is the deep mind, right? Or it's the crown of the unconscious, kind of your choice, right? So according to this Mesopotamian culture, the star is associated with the tree of life. All right, so a lot of people are familiar with the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. You know, the serpent's like, yo, Eve, go eat that apple. She eats the apple, learns the knowledge of good and evil, and they get banished from the garden, right? And a lot of people maybe aren't aware that there are multiple trees in this garden. I mean, it's a garden. And that there were two that were very much a focus in the Bible. And in the Adam and Eve story, which is very closely tied to the serpent, right? And these trees are, yes, the tree of knowledge, but then also the tree of life. The tree of life is not only in biblical tradition, it is in countless world mythologies and religions. There's literally so many. I can show you. I actually pulled this thing up here. The tree of life is seen in countless ancient religions. There's the Icelandic, Norse religion of the Yggdrasil. We have it in ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Iran, Hinduism, Christianity, Mormonism, Gnosticism, all throughout Europe and Georgia, and the German pagans, the Norse mythology, and Islam. In Judaism, they have literally the tree of life of the Kabbalah, right? The Kabbalah, Mesoamerica, like literally North America, Turkey, like it's everywhere. And we talk about this a lot in the Axis Mundi video that I talk about literally all the time, which is linked free here on YouTube, and at some point will be down below. I promise I'm going to do it after. I promise. I see the note over there. I talk a lot about this Axis Mundi, this world tree, this center of everything that is very much depicted in a lot of ancient traditions as a tree. Sometimes it's a polar pillar, sometimes it's like the axis of Earth itself, sometimes it's a ladder, but oftentimes it's a tree, and it's connecting multiple planes together. A lot of times it's heaven and hell, but a lot of times it's everything and everywhere, which is ultimately what the Axis Mundi represents, is the center of everything, which is what the Ophiuchus, the constellation where this full moon falls, where the new moon that seeded this also fell, is trying to get us to develop within ourselves, is this essence of our center, okay? We also see the tree of life in the biblical tradition as well. Okay, so I have a little bit of notes on this. So it comes from the words meaning the forbidden tree of life of Eden, which is associated with the world tree and the Axis Mundi. This is the tree of life is said to be the tree that connects all life together, okay? The tree of knowledge is dualistic. The tree of knowledge is probably a lot more like the Yggdrasil here, although it really does connect so many multiple worlds with that rainbow bridge and the mythology. But it's really dualistic. It connects heaven and hell, good and evil, light and dark, right? So the tree of knowledge is dualistic. The tree of life is seen in many mythologies, but the tree of knowledge is really only seen in the Judeo-Christian faith, or really the Abrahamic faiths, the three Abrahamic faiths. So we have the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, right? The tree of knowledge we're familiar with, right? This is the knowledge associated with the Abrahamic faiths, and it is said to connect heaven and hell, light and dark, good and evil. It's associated with the split, with polarity, right? While the tree of life is the Axis Mundi. It is associated with life, all life. And this tree in the Abrahamic faiths is said to have been in the middle of Eden. So in the middle of the paradise, right? That is where the tree of life is found, right? It is that center, right? That center between what we grasp and understand through the tree of knowledge, which is the two sides of the coin, the two sides of the story. This is Gemini, right? This is the opposition to Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is ideally where we find the middle, right? That's why the galactic center is there, very much associated with that galactic middle, right? Okay, so let me see where I'm at here. So the tree of life is found in the middle of the Garden of Eden. The tree of knowledge is not said to be in the middle, but it is said to be close by. The apple of knowledge helps to unlock the realm of duality. Are you still battling the serpent? Are you still battling this apple of knowledge, this realm of duality, one side of the coin? Or have you found the center, the life in the center, the axis mundi? Regardless of where you fall on the spectrum, this is all needed in order to find the center. So if you're way over there, you're learning. And if you're way over there, you're learning. And eventually, hopefully, you'll find yourself in the center, right? Regardless, we are all being tested right now. We are all being tempted by this pull of the darker side of divinity on this quest to find our center. Now, it's said that if we eat from the tree of life, that we will live forever. And in the Bible, God was really worried that we were going to eat from the tree of life and live forever. And apparently, the tree of knowledge leads us to wanting to eat from the tree of life after. So that is why we had to be kicked out of the Garden of Eden, because we would eventually have eaten from the tree of life, from that center, and found our immortality, which is just that realization that we are one with all that is. We are divine in our very nature, and therefore we will never, ever die, right? So the tree of knowledge will lead us to want to do this, apparently. Okay. Long tangent before we even got to the Sag slide. Hopefully that all was landing. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Hi, Sophia. She said, I just checked. Early Gemini is my 10th house, so the moon is falling in my 4th. Same. She says, Waffles V says, I have 0 degrees Gemini moon. The sun is right conjunct your moon. And Mars conjunction in my 4th. So your 4th house, 10th house axis is also highlighted. A lot of us really feeling it in the 4th and the 10th, the outer world, the inner world, our psychological foundations, our roots, where we came from, and then what it is we're here to be seen for in the outer sphere, our career, our mission, our purpose, right? She says, plus the way the 12 works perfectly. 12 works perfectly with 360-degree circle. Thank you. Like, we can't have 13 signs. Besides, we're literally trying to fit him into a system that he is trying to free us from. Like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, and he wouldn't even be 13. Pisces, in the whole concept, Pisces would then be the 13th sign. He would be the 9th sign because he comes before Sagittarius, and he covers up most of Scorpio. So we'd have very little Scorpio, like nothing, you know, and then we'd have Ophiuchus, and then it would go into Sag. So we'd have a tiny little 8th sign, and then a really big 9th sign, and then Sag would be the 10th. It doesn't make sense. It does not work. It just doesn't work. I usually try to find the middle ground of everything, and I guess I still did, because I still use the constellation, but I just don't use it the way everybody else uses it, because I don't agree. Okay, the heavenly belt, absolutely. Thank you, Sophia. This is like the kind of stuff I love. This is like my hyper fixation. I could talk about this forever. I'm literally trying to reel myself in. It's very hard for me. I want to just kind of keep going. We'll get back to some of this stuff. I love how Gemini rules the hands. Does Gemini rule the hands? I didn't know that. Everything connects. Yeah, everything's kind of connecting. All right, let's talk a little bit about Sagittarius. We're just going to go over the slide. real quick. So Sagittarius is one of the 4 mutable signs. It's very shifting. It's very adaptable. It's very changeable. All right. The mutable signs are shifting us into something else, right? And this is fire that is very much shifting us into something beyond, something expansive, something we don't even fully grasp yet. And we've just kind of laid that out, right? It is this man and horse, right? This centaur, this teacher, this guide, right? This is Chiron. The centaur of Sagittarius is Chiron, right? And so it is this like higher teacher, this mentor, this guide, this wisdom that ideally helps us to activate that like 13 that sits beyond, right? And then from there, that is working to kind of activate us into that galactic consciousness, sitting beyond the split, the war, the divide, and able to kind of embody multiple perspectives at once, okay? And understand how they can all be true simultaneously and also not true simultaneously, and how the truth is really amongst the mixture, okay? So Sagittarius is a fire sign, and so it is of the masculine polarity. It is very much active, okay? Sagittarius is traditionally ruled by Jupiter. This moon is opposing both the sun and Jupiter and Venus. Jupiter and Venus are out of sign. They're over at the ending degrees of Taurus at 20, conjunct each other at 29 degrees of Taurus, but within orb. So the essence of Jupiter is very much expressed right now in very big ways, and really has been since April, when we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus. The Jupiter archetype has been at the forefront of the astrological weather. Let's just say that. All right. So, Sag is governed by Jupiter. Jupiter is opposing this moon. We're really feeling this Jupiter energy of growth, of expansion, of philosophy, of the higher mind, of higher learning, social expectations, our ideals, opportunity, religious faith, wisdom, law, theoretical thought, morality, or immorality, if the stars have anything to say about it, spiritual or material prosperity, and long distance travel. This moon very much is associated with like abundance and growth, or it can just be like grandioseness. All right, when Jupiter is involved, when Sag is involved, sometimes it's too big for its own good, right? And so make sure you're expanding with purpose, with morals, with some sort of like grounded perspective, all right? Jupiter, who's about to move into Gemini and right now is conjunct Venus at the end of Taurus, astrology's 2 benefics together at 29 degrees of Taurus, harmoniously aspecting Neptune at the end of Pisces. Jupiter is really about to expand the realm of Gemini in really big ways after just having done so in the realm of Taurus, all right? Jupiter and Sag both are associated with our hero's journey, all right? Jupiter shows how we grow through life to fulfill the potential of our birthright. It's our personal path of initiation, our hero's quest. The sign of Sagittarius embodies this archetype. Growth in this context speaks to how we develop in response to the prevailing beliefs of society, and to what extent we either blend in with or challenge them, okay? And this is something we're all going to be experiencing as Jupiter transits through Gemini. We're really going to see the beliefs of the split in consciousness and the like dualistic war play out in really big new ways, okay? And we'll be more than ever need to find our center so that we don't get lost in that whirlwind, okay? So Sag governs the 9th house. If you are an Aries rising, it will fall in your 9th house. If you are any other rising sign, it's going to fall in a different house. But society as a whole, the world as a whole, is really experiencing these 9th house areas because Sag governs us in our reality, our collective reality. And the moon's in Sag, it's a full moon in Sag. So we're all kind of experiencing this, but we're kind of experiencing it through certain houses, right? Certain other houses. So the 9th house is the house of the abstract mind. Remember, the fixed star in the hand of Ophiuchus is said to give success in both like astrological interpretation and 9th house matters, all right? So this is the realm of the abstract mind, belief systems, higher education, teachers, gurus, guides, mentors, travel, religion, higher courts, media, the internet, publishing, expansion into other realms we are not yet familiar with, the quest we are all on for those bigger answers. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? What is reality? Like all of those philosophical questions, right? Both physical and metaphysical journeys and an overall expansion of the mind, all right? In even bigger ways than a normal Sag moon because of like where the mind is headed, where the ruler of Sag, Jupiter, is about to enter Gemini, the realm of the like analytical, logical mind. Like our mind in the realm of information is about to fucking explode. So I wrote here, this is on the thumbnail too. This moon is an transformation, illumination, and expansion into higher spheres of consciousness, all right? I hope that everybody took Taurus season and really like Jupiter's transit through Taurus over the last year, but particularly Taurus season to ground into the body, all right? Because we are about to blast off into the mind in really profound ways. We haven't really experienced this for like 12 years. And it's coinciding with a lot of things that we've never experienced in our life, all right? This is a really big mental expansion. So I hope you spent the time to work and hone practices to help you ground into the body, help you align that connection with the body and the cycles of earth and nature, right? Everything Taurus represents has to do with value systems, financial systems, things that you need to survive as well, right? Because if you didn't, this moon and Jupiter's transit through Gemini is likely to manifest as scatteredness. It's a very mutable energy. It's very shifting. It's very ADD, for lack of a better descriptive word. I think I actually have this down here somewhere where I'm talking about it. It's restless energy, all right? It's mental energy with no real direction. But we need to have a direction, like that arrow pointing towards something with purpose, something spiritual, something universal, something of a higher sphere, right? But we're rooted and we're grounded in the earth in order to do that, in order for that arrow to land, right? So I hope you spent the time to ground, because if you didn't, this may manifest as very scattered energy, mental energy with no real direction, information with no real purpose, right? With no soul. However, if you have that connection to the body and the earth, if you spent the last year honing that, or the last, let's say you procrastinated like me, and you spent the last 30 days honing that, then ideally this transit, this moon and then this transit of Jupiter through Gemini will manifest as brilliance and universal wisdom, because that energy is very much abound right now, okay? So, Sagittarius is said to be associated with the abstract mind, belief systems, higher education, teachers, gurus, guides, mentors, travel, religion, higher courts, the media, the internet, long distance communication of big subjects and information, publishing, expansion into realms we are not yet familiar with, like SUBSTACK, The quest, both physical and metaphysical journeys, and an overall expansion of the mind. It's associated with idealism and optimism, but sometimes it can be like blind optimism that is not really rooted in reality, all right? This energy is scattered, but it's very honest. It's restless, it's exaggerated, it's intuitive, it's assertive. It represents active manifestation. It's self-confident. It's okay, buddy. He's about to knock over a whole bunch more stuff, and he's sleeping. It's self-confident. It's ready for the moment. This is fire that's moving towards something else, something spiritual, right? Aries, the first fire sign, is said to start the impulse. It starts the spark of the zodiac. It starts the realm of the wheel of the year, right? It is that initial impulse of life that is reborn in the spring after the darkness of winter. Leo, the fixed sign, is said to sustain this impulse, much like the sun, that essence of like plasma, constantly burning. Aries is like a spark of light, and Leo is literally the sun burning, right? Now, Sag is where we ask the big questions. Where do I go with this impulse? What do I do with it? What is the purpose? What is this for? And ideally, it has to do with expanding the mind, expanding into new frontiers, right? But a lot of times Sag can get caught up in the realm of dogma, academia, religious dogma, fixed belief systems. So ask yourself, are you caught up in some sort of system that you are unable to question, or can you ask the big questions? Because this is a moon to ask the big questions on, all right? In the world, this moon is associated with morality. I don't know if you guys saw the news out of Germany today. I don't know how I can say these words out loud. It's like literally so crazy. They decriminalized, I don't even want to say the words on here, child corn, I guess I'll say it like that, where if you're caught with it, it's a misdemeanor. Everything's a misdemeanor. It's not a crime anymore. If you're caught with it, 3 months in jail. If the judge wants to throw the book at you, that's the highest sentence, 3 months in jail. If you're caught distributing it and they want to throw the whole book at you, to the peak of what it is, 6 months in jail. That's it. It's like literally decriminalizing the most profane, degrading, immoral aspects of human consciousness. I was telling Eddie, I was like, people always wonder, like, how did and it's interesting that it's Germany, again, because everybody's always asking, like, how did the Germans, or how did anybody allow, like, Hitler to come in and do everything he did? Like, how did they stand by and watch this? And it's because they did before he got there, they did what they're doing now. Berlin, Germany, was a absolutely depraved fucking city. The country was in turmoil, and it's very similar to how it is now, how all major cities are, especially now with fentanyl, especially now with the internet. Everything is just so much more dark and depraved, and everything was really bad. And so when he came, he wasn't like spouting, I'm gonna have concentration camps and I'm gonna genocide a whole people. He wasn't saying that in his speeches at first. A lot of that was done in secret, right? He was like, hey, you see how bad this shit is? And everybody's like, yeah, I see it, it's bad. He's like, I'm gonna come in and clean up the streets, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And so people were like begging for this, and humanity is kind of at that again. We're at that again, where our morality is being tested and immorality is rampant, right? And everybody's primed for cults, for dogma, and for extremism, extreme beliefs, extreme polarizing beliefs, especially once Jupiter enters into Gemini. We're really going to feel this expansion between the divide of the two sides of every fucking narrative, right? So in the world, Sag governs morality, and so this realm of human consciousness is going to be illuminated right now. The realm of religion, of international law, like the WHO, the UN, the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab stepped down today from the World Economic Forum, and I think the WHO is about to vote on the pandemic treaty, so there's that. Shipping, trade, and communication, foreign relations. I'm sure something is going to come out about the Iranian president's helicopter crash. And Russia apparently now is helping investigate it. I guarantee you America did that. I'm pretty sure America did that. That's probably going to come out. Other foreign relations may be a focus. The realm of media, the law, publishing, things like that. There's a couple herbs that are associated with Sagittarius. And then this sign is associated with books of all kinds, both the writing and the reading of them. And so if you do nothing else, you just pick up at random a book, open to a random page and read. And maybe that's where the illumination that you are looking for at this time may come from, because the realm of books is illuminated, the realm of information, of higher ideas, right? Okay. Jesus, I forgot to make damn it, all the lines. Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna do something real quick and see if this works. I wonder if I can put this over here. You guys, this is me on Canva all the time. I'm just like constantly battling it. How do I get just... Okay, I give up. We'll just put this over here and... Oh, Hallie. I was going to put that and align it with the chart so you can kind of see, because I forgot to do the lines, but it's not working. I want to move... this over here-ish. That's good enough. Sorry, it's like over all the... Let me just move it up a little and then it won't cover anything. Oh, you guys see my Virgo placements right now on display, my perfectionist tendencies. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, yay, see, it paid off. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the chart a little bit. All right, so we've talked a lot about Sagittarius. All right, the moon itself falls at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, conjunct the Earth, which if you were using a geocentric chart would be right here in the middle of the chart. And so the sun and Earth always kind of oppose each other, right? If we were using a heliocentric chart, then Earth can be put into the chart itself, and it will always be seen opposite the sun. And so at a time of full moon or eclipse or new moon, the sun, the moon, and Earth are all aligned. Sometimes the moon is over here with the Earth during a full moon. Sometimes it's over here with the sun during a new moon, but always opposing the Earth, all right? So we're always have this polarity activated. As the sun transits around the whole chart, it is always doing so in opposition to the Earth. It is at a time of full moon that this point is illuminated, right? This opposition is illuminated. And we're able to kind of work through this opposition, right? I want to turn this upside down because the moon is here and the sun is here. And so really it's backwards. It should be turned upside down. Just pretend it's turned upside down. All right, so Let's talk about this opposition. This falls in the signs that govern our mind, all right? The sun in Gemini is literally in the realm of the logical, analytical mind, the realm of information, the realm of communication, the realm of learning, the realm of analyzing. Not so much analyzing, but more like collecting all of the information, consuming it, right? The information is then analyzed over in Virgo, and then the big questions are asked in Sagittarius. What is this about? Where am I going? Does this information have an end? Does it have a purpose, or am I just consuming it, right? Whenever we have a Gemini Sagittarius moon, it is very heady energy, all right? This is very mental energy, and this can be used beautifully, but it is so mutable, it is so scattered, it is so restless, it is so ADD. Take it from somebody who has a freaking Sagittarius stellium. Like, it's brilliant, it's lovely. It really can tap into some of this like universal wisdom and truth and higher information, but it is so scattered and ungrounded and kind of all over the place, right? And so finding ways to ground during this time, right? We still have a bunch of Taurus energy helping us to do so. It's the last end of the Jupiter transit here. Jupiter moves into Gemini on the 25th, and at the time of this full moon, it is conjunct Venus at 29 degrees of Taurus. This is a beautiful transit. It's a very auspicious transit, especially in Taurus, the sign that Venus rules. So Venus is at home in Taurus. Jupiter loves to be in Taurus. This is expansion when it comes to the material, the earthly, the tangible, the realm of values and finances and self-worth and safety and the things we need to be self-sustaining, okay? We just had a huge new chapter start here back in April on the 20th when Jupiter conjuncted Uranus, which only happens once every 13 to 14 years, and will not happen again in Taurus in our lifetime. It hasn't been here since World War II. Now it's moved over, and it's in a conjunction with Venus, astrology's benefic. This is astrology's greater benefic and astrology's lesser benefic. They are said to be harmonious and beneficial when they get together, but, you know, Jupiter expands. Venus does have a lot to do with finances, and Jupiter is kind of extravagant with it. So especially in Taurus, this could be like overspending, overindulging, going overboard in some sort of Venusian way, right? Something around aesthetic or beauty or art or the things that we are attracted to or we like, people, right? So keep that in mind. But this is a beautiful transit when it comes to abundance, when it comes to the expansion of our values and our resources. Kind of love this. Then they're going to move into Gemini, and they're going to start to like bless that area. We have Venus and Jupiter both moving into Gemini. Venus moves into Gemini the same day as the moon, a little bit later in the day, and then Jupiter moves in 2 days later, okay? And they'll both be with an orb to the sun. These are very auspicious conjunctions that really help to bring a lot of harmony and beauty and ease and optimism and growth and expansion to a specific area of our life. So you want to look and see, where does Gemini fall on your chart? Because this is the area that is being urged to develop. Not only do we have the sun there, it's Gemini season. We're going to be trucking through this for the next 30 days. We're going to have a Gemini new moon there. Some new story is starting here. But that new story, that season, is coinciding with both of astrology's benefics transiting through there. If there has ever been anything that you want to venture out into, to start to manifest in whatever area of your life Gemini governs, now is the time to do it. Jupiter will not be here for another 12 years. He's only going to be here for the next year. You got a year to do what you got to do, set into motion what you're going to set into motion. It's going to revolve around the mind, information, communication, learning, networking, things like that. Okay? Now, I wish that I had put the lines here on the chart. They're not here, so you're going to have to work with me. But what we have aspecting this moon is what is known as a kite pattern. All right, if we bring in some more celestial points, so this is why I'm referring to this as a cosmic kite, because it involves the supergalactic center. But let me go ahead and kind of point this out to you, and then I will kind of interpret it. All right, so we have the moon opposite the sun, the moon opposite the sun. This is the only one of the, buddy, you're going to knock down that whole, that's very cute. You're going to knock down that whole basket and it's going to scare you. But that is very cute. Thank you. Okay. So the sun is opposite the moon. This is the only one of the red lines. This is the only one of the aspects that denotes a sort of like tension. But in this case, it's a very needed tension. Aspecting the moon, we have Pluto here in a sextile to the moon. Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius, sextiling the moon at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. This is a harmonious aspect that is said to bring benefit and ease, but again, it requires a little bit of effort on our part. We actually have the moon sextiling not only Pluto, but also the supergalactic center here at 2 degrees of Libra. This is making what is called a working rectangle or a minor grand trine. It's a little rectangle. And it is said to bring benefit and ease if we just put a little bit of work into it. It's not automatic benefit. That's why it's called a working rectangle, because it needs a little bit of work in order to reap the rewards, right? In this case, that work is coming through Pluto, the planet of transformation, right? The planet of alchemical rebirth, of transmutation, of the hidden, of the depths, right? It's retrograde, and so it's reassessing something. It's dipped here into Aquarius, and it is about to move back into Capricorn for just a couple of months, very short little stint, and then it will move back into Aquarius, where it will be for the next 20 years. It has been in Capricorn since 2008, and this is the tail end of a transformation in whatever house Capricorn governs, and the start of a change in whatever house Aquarius governs. And right now, both of those transformations are being reassessed, reconfigured, realigned, redone in some way, reassessed, right? In order to come back into alignment, in order to be recalibrated, right? And so the essence of change, of transformation, of penetration, of exposing, of death, right? In whatever, and rebirth, in whatever house Aquarius governs. Now, Aquarius collectively governs the collective. It governs the collective consciousness. It governs humanity as a whole, groups, group ideologies, where humanity is going. And remember, Sagittarius is our quest to fulfill our birthright, and to what extent we either fall in with the prevailing beliefs of society or challenge them, right? And so this may be a period of challenge, of temptation, of a test, right? With that plutonic force. That plutonic force that at this point, right, it's this, but in the chart, it's really coming from Pluto himself over in Aquarius. This magnetic force that is trying to pull us into that like lower crown. It's very much coming from the collective mind of man, which is being so manipulated. And I told you, bud. Okay, that whole thing's gonna fall. Oh my gosh, really? Really, Xander? manipulated and controlled and transformed in ways we are yet to even kind of fathom, right? And then there is our own quest, our own hero's journey, our own path to our birthright that we are. All right, you're gonna have to go. I love you, but bye. My test right there. Okay, anyway, so there's Pluto in a sextile to the moon, and then there's also the super galactic center in a sextile to the moon. All right, so we have a couple of different galactic points. We have the galactic center here at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, aligned with that like axis mundi, that center point. It sits opposite the pole star here at 28 degrees of Gemini. It aligns with the solstice points. It aligns with Ophiuchus. We also have the great attractor at 15 degrees, which Persephone right now is transiting over. That's Persephone, right? Yeah, Persephone is transiting over. She's retrograding over. The galactic center is the center of our own galaxy, the Milky Way. The super galactic center is the center of our super cluster. So it's like 100,000, I think it's like 100,000, and then it's like 100 billion, yeah. 100,000 galaxies all rotate around this central force. It's known as M87, and it's the black hole at the center of our supercluster, the Virgo supercluster. And then there's that supercluster and a shit ton of other superclusters that are all being pulled towards this gravitational force in space that we do not understand, but we're pretty sure is not a black hole. And that is what's known as the Great Attractor, which sits smack dab in the middle of Sagittarius. So we have the galactic center and the Great Attractor here in Sag. Is it any wonder that this is the sign that is asking these big questions, that is pushing out into the boundaries of consciousness, right? And this moon here in Sag is sitting in a harmonious sextile to the super galactic center, the source of super consciousness. And it's working with this illumination of the full moon in Sag, and it's working together with Pluto in Aquarius, the penetrator, the detective, who can get to the bottom of anything, the depths, right? The transformer, the essence of rebirth. This is all working harmoniously with this moon as part of this working rectangle, all right? And then both Pluto and the supergalactic center are sitting in a trine to the sun. So the supergalactic center and Pluto are working harmoniously with both the sun and the moon, all right? And what we have here is 3 planets all trying to work together to help really develop where the sun is. The sun is said to be the peak planet of this kite aspect pattern, and it is said to be the point that is seeking to be urged to be developed. It is this catalyst, this trigger, this tension, this opposition that is seeking some sort of development, right? And all of these planets here are working to develop that. In this case, it's developing our mind, our ability to process information in bigger, more expanded ways in order to see the bigger picture as opposed to the polarity, the duality, right? The ruling planet of Sag, the big picture, is about to transit through Gemini, the logical, analytical, lower mind, the polarized mind, the dualistic mind, helping it to see the bigger picture. All right, I have some notes here on this kite thing that I wrote. Okay, so the working rectangle, right? Now, when in this kite, we have 3 planets that are all working together to develop this peak planet. This planet here, in this case it's the sun, is said to be the tail of the kite. So this kite is upside down. It's supposed to be that way. It's said to be the tail of the kite, and it's a point of tension, just like a full moon is, a point of tension, a point of opposition, that this working rectangle is working to, this working rectangle is tasked with, no, what did I write here? This working rectangle, so it is the tension, the opposite, that this working rectangle is working to try to develop. There is a task here that needs to be accomplished, which we will be doing throughout not only Gemini season and the Gemini new moon that's right around the corner, but really Jupiter's next year transit through Gemini. That is where we're really going to be doing this. Like really big over the next 30 days, but throughout the next 12 months, okay? So a task here needs to be accomplished. This peak planet that everything is pointing towards, the moon, everything is pointing towards the development of the house in your chart that is Gemini, and any sort of planets that you may have aligned with that, all right? So this is kind of a brief moment in time, all right? The moon is only going to be here very briefly. It will move out of orb. I mean, I've never even told you guys when the moon is. The moon is on May 23rd at 6:53 a.m. So shortly after that, the moon is going to move out of alignment. We'll really only be kind of feeling that on the day of the 23rd, right? The sun will move out of alignment within just a couple of days, right? But Pluto and the Supergalactic Center are trining each other for a considerable length of time because Pluto is very slow, right? So this is a very transformative, super galactic aspect that we are really able to kind of hone in to both our conscious and subconscious mind in really big ways right now, because this aspect pattern, this kite formation, is manifesting for a very brief period of time, all right? So this is a very brief illumination of this area, right? And an ability to actually do something about it, right? If let's say we were just at a full moon, Pluto wasn't here, Supergalactic Center wasn't here, and we just had this opposition between the moon and the sun, we would really be feeling like we're pulled in two different directions, and we wouldn't necessarily be able to kind of find the middle, do the task, develop the thing, come into balance, because that polarity is activated and nothing is really coming to offer benefit, ease to help us rectify that. But a kite formation helps us to do that. These three planets are all working together. These two planets, well, this isn't a planet, but it's even bigger than a planet in my opinion. These two planets here, Pluto, the depths of our solar system, and then the Supergalactic Center, what sits beyond, are working harmoniously not only with our moon, our inner subconscious, our intuition, our emotional body, right? But the sun as well. And helping the sun and moon work together. Helping the man, the sun, and the moon, which is associated with the serpent. It sheds its skin. The nodes of the moon are the head and tail of the dragon, right? Help the sun and the moon come into balance so that it can activate that more galactic consciousness, right? Okay. So this is a harmonious cosmic kite, an aspect pattern where like multiple aspects coalesce to create some sort of geometrical shape. In this case, it is a grand trine, all in air signs, and then a minor trine that brings in a fire sign of Sag, where the moon is, all right? So it is very heady. It is very masculine in its expression, and it's very much rooted in the active polarity, okay? And so don't forget the earth. Don't forget that need to ground into the physical, ground into the body, ground into the self, or none of this will be of any good to you. All right, so this is a harmonious cosmic kite, because we got this over here, right? It's an aspect pattern, and this stellar point is a point of activation, of tension, of opposition, and this point is manifesting in our mind, and it's requiring some sort of resolution. It's bringing awareness, and it's requiring us to resolve something. In this case, it's probably some sort of polarization, some sort of opposition, some sort of tension between opposites, right? And needing to kind of find the middle, which is very hard to do during Gemini season. We tend to either bounce from one side to the other or pick one side and argue against the other side. Okay. Couple other things I want to point out here real quick before we move on. Okay, so we have Venus and Jupiter conjunct each other the day of this eclipse. I always say eclipse. I don't know why I do that. The day of this full moon. At 29 degrees of Taurus in a sextile, a harmonious aspect to Neptune here at the end of the zodiac. Neptune is at 29 degrees, 30 minutes of Pisces. It is at the depths of the zodiac, the fucking end, right? The deep as it can go. It is the ruling planet of Pisces. It is psychic, it is intuitive, it is dreamy, it is magical, it is mystical. It is also a little delusional. It is also a little confused, right? And this essence of mystic truth, spirituality, divinity, and confusion, illusion, delusion, fog, uncertainty, fear is working harmoniously with, luckily, both of astrology's benefic. So ideally, we can find the more optimistic, higher expression of this if we're working too. You know what I mean? It's a sextile. We gotta put in the work. Both of these planets will then move into Gemini. Like I said, we'll talk about Jupiter and Gemini here in a second. A couple other things I want to point out. Mars is currently transiting through its home sign of Aries. It just transited over the North Node on, literally just a couple days ago. I think it was Sunday. On Sunday, Mars transited over the North Node, that point of eclipse, right? And the Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation, attention, really started to be focused on the development of that new fated, destined story that was unlocked or developed during eclipse season. All right, now Mars transited over the North Node. Now it's at 17 degrees. It is transiting over the degree of the April 8th eclipse. And it's also transiting over the degrees of where Mercury retrograde was. So the planet of action, drive, motivation, attention, assertion is transiting over those points that were just reassessed in a really big way and then pushed forward by the hand of fate and destiny in an even bigger way. And so we're going to be pushed to act when it comes to whatever narrative is unfolding in whatever house Aries falls in your chart. And then it's going to transit over Chiron, and then it's going to transit over Eris, the goddess of chaos and discord, who is somewhat responsible for how chaotic eclipse season and Mercury retrograde manifested for many of us. We may feel this chaos come up again and this urge to act and heal and unlock some sort of wisdom within our wounds, right? And so like the reassessing that went on during eclipse season and Mercury retrograde, now we're ready to act upon, all right? And so action is very much being taken. Then Mercury is here at 11 degrees and it is about to transit over Uranus, and then eventually it will make it over to Jupiter. And so this is very much in addition to many other aspects in the chart, but this is very much an aspect of an expanded mind, an essence of brilliance and ingenuity and an awakening and expansion of our mental faculties, of the realm of information, right? But to what end? Like, are we using this for a purpose? Ultimately, ideally, we're trying to find that center, right? And not polarized to some sort of extreme, all right? So Jupiter, I'm just going to go over here and do it like this. Oh, let's not do that. Let's go over here. Okay, so Jupiter, wow, I forgot I went really far in the future. I was doing things. Okay. Later in the day, Jupiter will move into Gemini on May 25th. Lucky, I'm almost done, bud. One chance. Don't climb on my desk. Okay, Jupiter will move into Gemini, where it has not been for 12 years. Jupiter takes 12 years to go all the way around the chart, all right? He spends 1 year in each sign. The sun spends 1 month in each sign, taking 12 months to go all the way around the chart. Jupiter takes 12 years. That is why Jupiter governs Sag, higher study, higher academia, higher education, because he does his homework. The sun's like, the sun, the ego, right? He's like, I got this. I only need 30 days. I'm going in, I'm going out, I'm on to the next thing. And Jupiter is like, let's expand on this a little bit. Let's see what we can develop here. If we take a little bit more time and we put a little bit more effort towards one sort of subject, right? In this case, that subject is Gemini, whatever house Gemini governs in your chart. For me, it's my 10th house. It's going to have a lot to do with career, mission, purpose, right? Jupiter, I'm going to cover much more in depth in my Substack article, Jupiter's transit historically through Gemini, and the kind of like world events and things that manifested during that time. Jupiter expansion, Gemini information. A lot of things have to do with like real big expansive realms of information manifesting. The last 2 times that Jupiter was in Gemini was 2012 and the year 2000. It was literally the last 2 ends of the world. Like in the year 2012, you know, the Mayan calendar was ending and the world was gonna fucking end. Nobody knew how, but it was gonna fucking end, right? And then in the year 2000, Y2K, the computers are gonna glitch, everything is gonna end, right? And we seem like we're at the precipice of another end times hysteria. This time actually seeming a little bit more, at least scripted, with the biblical end times prophecy. They're really trying to kind of play it out this time. So I wouldn't be surprised if this split, this war, this dogmatic divide of ideologies expands in really big ways. But really the realm of information and communication is going to expand, all right? So this is a real brief. We discussed this in the May breakdown that's available here on YouTube more in depth. These historical events that are tied to the 2012 and 2000 transits. And we're going to expand on it a lot more in the Substack article. This is just a real brief overview, okay? So during past transits, some things that went down. In 2012, Edward Snowden, right at like the peak of this Jupiter transit, released all of that classified information, CIA documents showing just how much information they were collecting on us, showing the like mass surveillance state, right? That still has not been cleared up and is really coming back up. Assange and Snowden, this is really coming back up in the on the world stage, right? Jupiter through Gemini has a lot to do with like big information, both the exposing and the collecting of it. Transits of Jupiter through Gemini had a lot to do with the Human Genome Project and the collecting of data when it comes to like our physical vessel. This is the world's largest collaborative biological project. Big, Jupiter, information, right? It's collaborative, it's worldwide, it's expansive, it's getting into the nitty-gritty parts of information, right? Our literal genome, which has pretty much been mapped now. During the 2012 transit, CERN discovered the God particle. Really big information, right? Expanding the realm of that. We also, Jupiter transiting through Gemini historically has been associated with like really intense solar storms, all right? Jupiter's on a 12-year orbit. It takes 12 years to go all the way around the chart. The sun is on about an 11-year cycle when it comes to its solar maximum and its solar minimum. So every 11 years it goes into its solar maximum where it's like popping off more than normal. And so this like popping off of the sun coincides with Jupiter transiting through Gemini very often. The popping off, the expansion of our consciousness. We just had a very big solar storm, the biggest we've had in 20 years, the biggest aurora event that we had in 500 years. And in 2012, we had a massive solar storm. It was huge, but it didn't come towards Earth like the ones we just had did. But it was absolutely massive, and it too coincided with Jupiter in Gemini. I looked up to see when the biggest aurora event that we ever had was the one in 1959, the Carnegie event. I thought it was Carnegie Carrington event. This is when we had the biggest solar storm ever on record. It was in September of 1959. I hate that I'm in the AI part. This just started popping up, you guys. I don't know how to turn this off. Is Google just doing this now? Because this is the first day that I've ever seen this. I'm gonna go to Wikipedia just out of principle. So the Carrington event was the most intense geomagnetic storm in recorded history. Long before CERN, long before HAARP. And it peaked in 1859 during a solar cycle. And I looked up that chart to see if Jupiter was in Gemini. It wasn't, but it had just moved into Cancer. So it had previously been in Gemini, and I'm sure they were experiencing many solar storms, that just being the biggest one during that solar maximum, right? So Jupiter in Gemini has a lot to do with the expansion of our mind. And during this time, historically, every 11 years, Jupiter enters into Gemini, and we also have a solar maximum. So I'm going to be exploring the solar storms, the solar flares, geomagnetic storms, which are historically tied to Jupiter and Gemini, and all of that in my Substack article, which I will be posting the day of the full moon. So again, if you guys would like to join Substack, it is linked down below. We'll be talking about HAARP and the solar storms, Jupiter through Gemini, and then I'll kind of be summarizing this new moon energy as well, which you guys just kind of watched me all lay out here now. So I have a couple of cards. Let me just go ahead and do those, and we'll call it a night. It's 11 o'clock. Okay, Lucky. That's my note. I can't forget my note. What do I do with the cards, Lucky? Okay. Buddy, don't mess with the cords, though. I'm going to kick you right out of here. Okay? Hi, you want to say hi to the internet? He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He really watches TV. We put on the kitty TV for him with like the birds and stuff because we noticed he was like watching like, hey, be nice. We noticed he was like watching the kids, good boy, play video games and things like that, and he's like really into it, and he like watches it and he's like, what is this? And he's like crazy when it comes to electricity or like gadgets. He's like trying to figure it out, like when the kids use the DVD player and the thing comes out. He's like, our other cats don't care. But he came from the streets. He's like, whoa, what is this sorcery? The same thing with the printer over there. It's hilarious. Okay, I have some cards. So the archetypal card I pulled is the desert. All right, we're in very fiery, air dominant archetypal energy right now. You know, this is Gemini. This is Sag. It is very desert-like. And we're on a quest. We're on a quest in this wasteland we call life to some sort of gem. You guys, Patreon members know, this freaking card has been following us in every single video. We have been looking for this fucking gem for so long, all throughout eclipse season, this timeless gem, this stone, right? This center, that which we are seeking, right? And I pulled the desert card and I got his hair all over me. I pulled the desert card and the gem was at the bottom. So I immediately heard like diamond in the rough, right? There is some sort of hidden gem here amongst the rough, amongst the desert, right? So let's go ahead and read this card. He actually plays with this little cat tree thing I made right here. You can't really see it, but I like covered it with fur, and it's full of books, but it was supposed to be for the cats. They are kittens. And the bottom has like stuff for them to scratch, and he actually plays with it. It makes me so happy. Okay. All right. The desert. One, do not mess with that. Thank you. The desert. 137. Okay. The desert, the drought, the wasteland, the badlands. The desert leaves us disoriented. The ruling planet of Sag is harmoniously aspecting Neptune. It is disorienting, this moon, right? But we can find our way. We can find that gem, that northern star, right? But it will take a little bit of work and effort on our part. The desert leaves us disoriented, desperate. The desert's going to kick a kitty out if he doesn't stop. Come on. No. Get out of the box. You go out there and play with everybody else if you want to do all that. Let's go. Let's go. Out, out, out. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Thank you. As I was saying, the desert leaves us disoriented, desperate for direction, gasping for meaning, longing for solid ground. For endless miles, we are confronted with a lack of clarity and existential dread. We are thirsty, hungry, pleading with life to get back to normal. I want to point out that Pluto over there is like pretty much conjunct where the Great Conjunction Point is, and is about to retrograde over where the Great Conjunction Point was of December 2021, where we had the vaccine sent out into the human collective, Aquarius, right? And that change, that mutation, that transformation started to happen. And now Pluto's transiting over that point again. So I said in my monthly video, I wouldn't be surprised if that sort of narrative resurfaces in some sort of way. And we are seeing like bird flu and all kinds of stuff come up, so who knows what they're going to do. But we want life to go back to normal, right? I'm going to start at the beginning because this was really good and I interrupted it. The desert leaves us disoriented, desperate for direction, grasping for meaning, longing for solid ground. For endless miles, we are confronted with a lack of clarity and existential dread. We are thirsty, hungry, pleading with life to get back to normal, to become animated by the simple pleasantries of day-to-day life. The desert offers no such comfort, and all must pass through it. If you can embrace the discomfort of the desert, If you can embrace the discomfort of the desert, knowing you will someday reach water again, you can tap into the potent energy of the landscape. Its lights are blindingly bright, and its darks terrifyingly deep, which makes for unbridled creativity and clairvoyant visions. Truths reside within the desert that otherwise remain hidden. The crows, the shadows, and all the coyotes call surround you. Let the winds and sands work their deep magic, weary traveler, right? So the desert is very bright, it's very dark, it's very polarized, right? It's very dualistic, but within this realm lies hidden truths, right? Clairvoyant visions, and that essence of depth, right? So the desert is alive and pulsing with energy despite its desolate appearance. Turn towards it rather than away from it, right? There's an oasis in there somewhere. There's a tree of life in some sort of oasis. We just have to find it. We have to find the gem, right? By asking the big questions. When in the throes of the desert, contemplate the following. You are not alone. You have more supplies with you than you think. Water is very near. When this archetype is evolved, it is surreal. It's strange. It's unexpected visions and it's silence. But in its lower archetype, it can be drying and deadening and disorienting and isolating. Okay? And it says to go deeper, you can either read Dune or watch Dune. I've never read the book, but the original movie was good. I don't really like the new one, but I liked the original. All right, we're in the desert. We're looking for the gem, the oasis, right? I'm not going to read this card because it's literally been in the last several videos and we've read it many, many, many times. I'm not going to read it. We're looking for this sacred gem. It is different for each and every one of us. We're all looking for something different, right? But we're all on this quest. And so I pulled another card and was like, how can we best navigate this desert to the gem? And the card that came out is Earth of Spirit, right? So that earth element is very much needed, as is the realm of spirit. And it says nurturing boundaries. Okay? This is what's going to help us through that like restlessness, that scatteredness of this mutable energy as well. It's going to help us find footing and grounding, if I can find it in the book. Okay, there it is. All right, nurturing boundaries. As the earth energies ascend into the spirit of creativity, as the earth energies ascend into the spirit of creativity, they bring the empowerment that is limitation, boundaries, creative circumstances, capacities, limits, and the intuition that it is time to grow beyond. A card that shows me boundaries can be helpful, healing, and give me a place within which to unfold. It also reminds me that there comes a time to crack the shell and cross the boundaries into an unknown world. Very Sag. A painting is made all the more effective by its framing. It is perspective and context that gives deeper significance to the forms they contain. Each a realm to explore and to recognize when I have outgrown them. Inquiry: what boundaries do I need to create, and what ones do I need to move past? All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna go post these links all right now. I promise. They'll be linked below, under some of the announcements in the descriptions down below. And then the first Substack article will be posted on the full moon. And then early next month, if you're a course member, we'll be diving into the luminaries. the sun and the moon, and then the following lectures will be on the rest of the planets, broken up. I don't know how we're gonna break it up. I'm just gonna, this course is just gonna happen as it happens, and the videos are gonna be as long as they need to be until it's done. But you guys have access for its lifetime. So, all right, guys, have a great full moon. Have a wonderful, expansive, illuminating experience. Work to try to develop that peak planet, that tail, right? The realm of Gemini. Yes, it's a Sag moon, but the focus is also very much on that Gemini house, as it is going to be over the next month, over the next year. It's going to be a lot happening there, okay? Even longer once Uranus moves in there. The focus is going to very much be on the realm of Gemini for the years to come, all right? So get ready for a very heady ride, all right? Make sure you find ways to ground or you will lose yourself. You better check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.